On this day, 100 years ago, the world's most famous ship, the Titanic, hit an iceberg and sank in the North Atlantic Ocean, taking with her more than 1,500 lives. Those many victims have been remembered in services at sea and around the world.
A horse-drawn hearse led a candlelight procession through the streets of Halifax. A reminder of how more than 200 bodies from the Titanic arrived in a place they then called the City of Sorrow.
My grandfather was out there bringing the bodies in.
Just below the funeral home where the victims were taken to, now a restaurant, thousands remember the moment the Titanic hit an iceberg exactly 100 years ago. It's a story local TV reporter Rob Gordon has a special connection to.
6 members of my extended family on the ship. 2 of them died. You can imagine being lowered down the lifeboat and looking up and seeing your father and your brother and waving goodbye to them.
Flares marked the moment the last frantic communications were received from the Titanic as she began to slip under the water, swallowed by the North Atlantic Ocean. 1,100 kilometres southeast of Nova Scotia, a cruise ship sits directly above the wreck site. It's retraced the Titanic's exact route from Southampton. On board are both descendants of those who died and also those fascinated with the disaster, who are reliving it in every detail, from costume to cuisine. Almost 4,000 metres below, the ship herself, barely recognisable, a rusted maritime graveyard. It took less than 3 hours for the Titanic to disappear, but 100 years later, it hasn't been forgotten. In Halifax, Mike A. Moore, 7 News.
Closer to home, the daughter of a Titanic survivor has marked the anniversary with a party in Melbourne. 84-year-old Joy Lester's mum was aboard the ship when tragedy struck, but she escaped in a life raft. Last night, Joy sang and danced the night away with the captain and crew of the Titanic theme restaurant. It was a bittersweet celebration for Joy, whose grandfather went down with the ship.